Mark 4, verse 35. It says, on the same day when evening had come, he said to them, let us cross over to the other side. Now when they had left the multitude, they took him along in the boat as he was, and other little boats were also with him. And a great windstorm arose, and the waves beat into the boat so that it was already filling. But he was in the stern, asleep on a pillow. And they awoke him and said to him, Teacher, do you not care that we are perishing? Verse 39. Then he arose and rebuked the wind and said to the sea, Peace, be still. And the wind ceased, and there was a great calm. But he said to them, Why are you so fearful? How is it that you have no faith? And they feared exceedingly and said to one another, Who can this be that even the wind and the sea obey him? With us knowing where we're at, let's go to verse 38. And I want us to read this here together in unison. In verse 38, I've been reading from the New King James Version, so it might be a little different than the one you've had. But we have it right up here on the screen for all of us to read together. On the count of three, let's read together. 3, 2, 1. Teacher, do you not care that we are perishing? You may be seated. Can we be real about this scripture for a second? How many of you have ever prayed and asked God, do you not care what's happening to me? Have you ever had that moment where you feel like, God, have you just completely abandoned me? Have you ever felt like in a moment that, God, we're dying. We're in a storm. We are dying over here. Where are you at? God, we're perishing. Where are you? And the thing is, I started to prepare for this message here today is the simple fact of this. These men are all in a boat together. They're going to the other side, and this storm comes out of nowhere. And it starts to beat on their boat. And it starts to come at them and attack them. You got to give me more than that, Nate. Sorry. So, again, we go into this where we see where Jesus is asleep in the boat. And in this moment, they are struggling to survive. And they're going, God, where are you? And the thing I started to look at from this perspective was simply this. They are being faced in a storm. They are in a boat that is starting to fill with water. The storm is so violent that they are afraid they're going to die. Now, how many of you have ever been in a storm and you go, man, I'm about to die here? I started to think about all the storms in my life, and I started to think about simply this. You might have a financial storm. How many of you have ever lived paycheck to paycheck? Or maybe you've had to get to the place where you go, it's either I pay rent. Anybody else know where this is going? I pay rent or I eat. I remember one time getting to the place of doing my budget, and I was like, I could eat this week, or I could do the responsible thing and pay my rent. I got a few extra pounds. I think I can fast through it. I think we're going to pay the rent this month. And then you start looking at other financial storms that might come your way, and you go, how can we afford the dialysis? How can we afford the insulin? How can we afford the things that we need to survive? You know, when gas started getting real crazy on price, I told my dad, I was like, man, people are going to have to start making financial decisions on whether they want gas or whether they want food. I mean, the cost of eggs and milk is ridiculous. Financial storms are real. I had to buy some diapers for my niece one time, and I was like, you got to be kidding me. Diapers cost how much? A rag. We will hose her off in the yard. We will We will take care of her, I promise you. Diapers are ridiculous on price. But financial storms are real, and sometimes they hit you at the place, especially. I started to think about where my parents were at, and I go, did they ever sacrifice for me? And go, they wanted me to have something, and they had to go without. Can we afford the rent? Can we afford the medical bills? Can we afford the gas? Can we afford the electricity to keep the house going? Maybe you're just trying to figure out how you're going to last on that last $20 that you have. And you're in a financial storm, and you're asking God, how are we going to make it? I got to the place during COVID that I got down to my last $20. My last $20. And I remember going and paying for gas. I remember going and paying for gas, going, I don't need food. I got enough fat on me. We're going to be okay. I just need the $20 to get me to Big Spring, Texas. I mean, who would have thought Big Spring, Texas be a paradise to get to, right? But I remember going from DFW down to Big Spring, Texas, right when COVID was happening, going, I just need enough to get home, to get where I need to be. And God, I don't know how I'm going to pay for rent. I don't know how I'm going to take care of everything else. But God, I know you'll make a way. See, in that financial storm that I was in, I had to trust God that he was going to be enough. Well, see, storms sometimes aren't just financial storms. Sometimes they're medical storms. I mean, let's face it. We've all been going through sickness battles here recently. The flu has been going crazy. We've all lived through COVID. We've seen medical storm after medical storm. But what about those unforeseen medical storms that we didn't see coming? Maybe there was a storm that you didn't know was about to hit you. And like we see with the disciples here on the boat, the storm was hitting the boat so hard and filling it with water that they were afraid they were going to drown. Well, what happens when all of a sudden you get hit with that medical storm and all of a sudden you go into the doctor and you go, man, something's wrong. And he comes back and they go, guess what? You got cancer. Well, God, I can't afford cancer. I can't afford this medical hit. Or maybe you get hit from a medical side of a storm that you never would have saw coming. Maybe the medical storm even led to somebody dying in your family. Death is a storm. Death is a storm that hits so hard because you can't predict when it's coming. This time last year, my dad passed away. And I went through one of the worst storms of my life because I've had friends pass away. I've had some family pass away. But when you have somebody that close to you pass away, there's something in you that almost feels like it dies. I had somebody tell me one time when I was trying to go through that storm, through that grieving process, and I told them, man, I'm just trying to take it day by day. And they said, no, sometimes it's breath by breath. That spoke into me because I needed to hear that. Sometimes when you're trying to get through a storm, it's just breath by breath. But here's the thing. The storm is still real. The storm is real. It's still hitting your boat. You're still being moved and swayed by the wind. Your boat is still being beaten by the waves of that storm. The storm is real. But how many of you have ever been around somebody and they go, you know what, your storm's really not that bad. You know what, I think you just need to take some Tylenol, get some sleep, it'll be okay. See, the thing is, people will try to deny your storm. They will try to say, it's really not that big of a deal. Maybe the finances, they go, well, maybe if you just get up and go get a job. Well, here's the thing. You might be working 2 different jobs. They don't know the storm that you're in. They don't know what you've been doing behind the scenes. They're over there going, well, maybe if you'd eat better, your health will get better. They don't know about you over there taking all the chemo and just trying to survive day by day. See, people will always try to downplay your storm. Because here's the thing, they don't know what you're going through. People are not always the most sympathetic to understand the storm that you're going through. But the reality is the storm is real. The storm is real. And maybe it's not financial. Maybe it's not medical. Maybe it's not a death in the family. Maybe it's you just being completely heartbroken from a relationship. Maybe somebody completely shattered and destroyed your heart and your trust. Maybe it's a broken marriage. Maybe it's a broken relationship. Maybe it's a best friend backstabbing you and you feel like you've just lost your best friend. See, relationships can be a storm as well. And it can devastate you, cripple you. And maybe it even leads to the mental storms. The mental storms that we all go through. Maybe the mental storm that you're in right now is anxiety. Maybe it's depression. Whatever those storms are, the thing that we have to recognize here tonight for the first point is this. The storms are real. The storms are real. I was telling somebody this earlier. I said, here, the enemy doesn't play games. He knows what he's out to do. He's out to steal, kill, and destroy. So if he can steal your peace, steal your mental health, he's going to do it. He might come in there and try to destroy your family, try to destroy your finances, destroy your health. He might even try to come in and kill you. There might be a storm that comes your way that you never saw coming. Maybe it was somebody on the highway that wasn't paying attention. Next thing you know, you're in a wreck. But the reality is we are in a storm. And it's real. See, we don't need to downplay the storms in other people's lives. We need to recognize if they are in a storm, if we're in a storm, meet them where they're at. The storm is real no matter what it is. But we see here in the Bible here, the disciples are going through a storm that they didn't expect along the way. See, Jesus told them, let us cross over to the other side. Now, when Jesus tells you to do something, the disciples have learned at this point, do whatever he tells you to do. He says, let's get over to the other side. They all get into the boat. And I'm sure if I heard Jesus say, let's get over to the other side, I'm expecting cruise service over here. I'm expecting a full buffet. I'm expecting, let's get over there. I'm going to take a nap. Jesus is taking a nap. Let's go take a nap, right? I wasn't expecting a storm and a half along the way. I wasn't expecting when Jesus said, let's get to the other side, that all of a sudden I would get blindsided and I'm fighting for my life hoping we don't drown and die. I can't imagine being in that ship and all of a sudden it is swaying back and forth. Water is starting to fill in and I go, can I swim in a storm? I know I can swim. I don't know if I'm that good of a swimmer, and let alone what is in the water. I didn't expect to be in this storm, but here I am. I'm in the storm. It's happening. I'm in it right now. See, the storm is absolutely real, and it is starting to destroy this boat. And all the while, I'm thinking, can you imagine being the disciples? And Jesus says, let's get to the other side. And they're over there watching as they're starting to sail to the other side, and the storm comes. Now, how many of you in this moment would be in the storm and just expect God to just show up, right? How many of you have ever had that moment you go, I'm waiting for the clouds to part and God to answer my question, right? I need God to show up and just intervene in this situation. God, I don't know if you got the memo here. I'm dying. we're under attack. Hey, guess what? I'm your son. I gave my life to Christ, but somehow I've been attacked. Help your boy out. I'm under attack. God, where are you? The disciples are getting hit left and right, and they go, where is Jesus? And I know they're asking, where's Jesus? Because they begin to search the boat looking for him. And guess where they found Jesus? Taking a nap. And you know what I love about this in the scripture here? I don't know if y'all caught this when we were reading it earlier, but guess what this says right here? It says in verse 37, and a great windstorm arose, and the waves beat into the boat so that it was already filling. But he was in the stern, asleep on a pillow. Not only is Jesus sleeping, he's sleeping good on a pillow. They didn't have to leave the pillow part in the Bible, but they made sure it was put in there to let you know Jesus is sleeping good. How many of you hate being woke up in the morning? Any of y'all? Y'all all just early birds? Okay, a few honest people in here. Thank you. How many of you hate being woke up in the morning? If somebody wakes you up, you're ready to throw a shoe or whatever you got in your hands at them. Nobody? Am I the only evil person over here? Okay. I wake up in the morning, leave me alone. Let me have my coffee. Let me eat my breakfast. Nobody say a word to me, right? There's been a few people here in the church, I'm not going to name names, but they know this about me, and they love yelling at me in the morning. They love, have you ever been around that person? They're that early bird, and they're like, good morning! And I'm like, I hate everything about you. To my core. I'm still waking up mentally, but you are full of life and happiness, and I don't have that. Jesus is asleep on a pillow, and I can't help but put myself in his place going, he's probably in that deep, deep sleep, you know, that drool coming out on that pillow, right? He's sleeping on a pillow in the middle of this storm. He's not hearing the storm around him. His disciples are freaking out, and they're going, Lord, do you not care? I got choked up. They go, teacher, do you not care that we are perishing? Can you believe that? The first words out of the disciples' mouth isn't good morning. It's, we're dying. Do you not care? What are you doing being asleep in the boat right now, and we're all gonna die? Jesus, teacher, do you not care about me? Can we be real about that for a minute? Have you ever had that moment with God and said, God, do you really not care about me? I gave my life to you, but where are you? I'm in the storm of my life, but where are you? And here they are, trying to find God in this moment. And where do they find him? Asleep on a pillow. And they wake him up. And they go, teacher, do you not care that we are perishing? And I started to think about this. Why do you think they woke him up that way? I mean, be real about it. They know this is Jesus, the one who's been performing miracles and healing people. In fact, he had just explained to them about mustard seed faith, that if you just have the seed of a mustard seed, it'll grow beyond anything you can imagine. That with a mustard seed faith, you can do the impossible with God. But Jesus is asleep on a boat, and they go, do you not care that we are about to die? Where are you, God? This is my second point here tonight. God is with you in the storm. I want to point this out. Jesus didn't jump out of the boat. It didn't say he got in the boat and then poof, he vanished, right? He didn't pull a Houdini. He didn't magically disappear. He's in the boat with them. He's in the boat with them. He didn't abandon them. The simple fact is, they didn't understand why Jesus would be asleep in a boat while the storm is raging around them. They didn't understand how Jesus could just ignore the obvious going on around them. But Jesus is in the same boat with them. I mean, think about this for a minute. Jesus, the Lord of everything, the creator of everything, is asleep in the boat. If God is asleep in your boat in the middle of a storm, I don't think there's anything to worry about, right? If God is so at peace that he can sleep in the middle of this storm, why are you stressing about it? But the disciples are having a real human moment, a real human experience here. They're going, it looks like death is going to get us here tonight. Jesus, you said let's go to the other side, but death has come to sink the boat and we're going to die. Jesus, do you not care? The very first words out of their mouth isn't, hey, help us with the storm. It's, do you not care? Do you not love me? Do you really not care about me so much that you're going to just sleep on me? That you're going to leave me in this storm to die? See, here's the thing that I love about Jesus when he talks about this in the Bible and when he talks to his disciples. He said something later on that he said, you will have tribulations in this world, but be of great cheer. I have overcome the world. See, Jesus did not promise you an easy, smooth ride. He did not promise you a cruise experience going across the ocean. What he promised you was this: the world will be full of tribulation, but I have overcome the world. Jesus said we're going to make it to the other side. He didn't promise it was going to be a smooth ride. The thing about the tribulations that we go through, the trials, the tribulations, the storms that we're going into, I think sometimes we want God to just step in and stop the storm before it ever happens. We go, God, I just want to live on easy street the rest of my life. In fact, stop the storm before it ever comes. But here's the thing. How many of you got kids? Will y'all raise your hand? All right, so that's everybody. Cool. How many of you have ever told a kid to stop doing something and they keep doing it? Okay, some of y'all, I was waiting for all the hands to go back up. Okay. I saw this happen one time where my sister she's a great mom, and she told her little daughter, stop doing this or you're going to get hurt. She told her this 3 different times. What happened? I'm glad somebody knows. She got hurt because mom turned her head for a second, went to go take a nap, and guess what happened? She did it anyways. She got hurt. See, here's the thing. A good parent will let you learn sometimes the hard way. A good parent will help guide you and direct you and tell you everything's going to be okay, but you got to trust them. One of the best experiences I ever had this in my own life, we got on a plane in the middle of a storm, right? We're about to go up in this plane, and it's cloudy outside. It's lightning striking all over the place. Now, I don't know about y'all, but flying in a big metal bird in the air while lightning's striking everywhere, it's not the most fun, safe experience on the planet, right? But my parents told me, hey, they trusted the people there at the airport saying, we're going to be okay. We got on the plane, and it was a rough ride. We had turbulence on turbulence. Have you ever seen that fasten your seatbelt sign moment? That seatbelt sign never came off. We were strapped into that plane. We were being shook around every which way. I'm over there turning to my sister, please don't throw up on us here on the plane, okay? It is moving all over the place. It is a rough ride, but here's the thing. We got to the end destination alive. We got to go on our vacation by the end of this plane ride, but we had to go through the storm to get to the other side. See, the trials and tribulations that we go through are not meant to destroy us. See, Satan, he's out to steal, kill, and destroy. And yes, he will send trials and tribulations your way. And yes, he will do everything he can to steal, kill, and destroy you. But here's the thing. God will step in and turn it around for his good. See, what was meant to kill you will now be the very thing that he will use to equip you to lead others into their salvation. The very thing that he meant to send the storm to capsize the boat is now a moment that God can represent himself and calm the storm in a moment. See, the very first words out of the disciples is, "Teacher, do you not care that we are perishing?" But God is with them in this boat. He's with them in the storm. And guess what? He's never left them. Which leads to my third point, is peace in the storm. See, the disciples in this moment came to Jesus saying, do you not care that we're dying? Do you not care about us at all? They didn't point to the storm. They pointed to Jesus and saying, do you really not care about us? We're dying, and do you not care? It says in verse 39, then he arose and rebuked the wind and said to the sea, peace, be still. And the wind ceased, and there was a great calm. But he said to them, why are you so fearful? How is it that you have no faith? And they feared exceedingly and said to one another, who can this be, that even the wind and sea obey him? Peace, be still. I looked up this word peace in the Bible. I looked up in the original Greek on this, and this word actually means to intentionally shut your mouth. In other words, in this moment, Jesus is saying, be quiet. Keep your mouth quiet. Keep it from moving. He's almost basically saying, shut up. Peace, be still. I thought it was interesting that he goes into this and he is rebuking the wind and the storm, and then he is speaking to the environment, saying, be quiet. And I started to really think about this and go, Jesus was not just speaking to the physical storm that was in front of them. He was not just speaking to the waves crashing against the boat and to the wind that was moving them. He is talking to the very storm that the disciples are going through. How do I know this? Because the very next thing he corrects is, how can you still be fearful? If you just saw Jesus performing all these miracles, you just saw all the things that Jesus is doing, and Jesus is asleep in your boat. He's along for the ride with you. And he's saying, how can you still be afraid? Where is your faith? If I say, let's get to the other side, we're getting to the other side. If Jesus says it, it will happen. In this moment, he is speaking to not only that physical storm and the waves and the wind, but now he is speaking to the storms that the disciples are going through. Whether that is fear, anxiety, depression, whatever those storms are right now, he is saying, stop speaking to those storms and start talking to me. Be quiet. Stop giving the storm attention and turn to the one who's bigger than the storm. See, the disciples had it right. They were afraid. They're on the boat and they go, this storm looks like it's going to kill us. But in this moment, they needed to recognize that Jesus is bigger than any storm that can be thrown their way. How many of us have ever gone through that moment that we see the storm coming and we are in the storm right now? We are getting hit left and right, and that storm seems like it is impossible to defeat. And all of a sudden we turn to God and go, God, do you not care? Where are you? And if all of a sudden we would really just turn around, look, we would see God's been there with us every step of the way. The storm is not bigger than God. Guess what? God is bigger than any storm. I just told y'all that Jesus said, you will have tribulations in this world, but be of great cheer. I have overcome the world. So what I want to challenge you with here tonight is this. If you have storms in your life here tonight, as the worship team is coming on up, whatever that storm that you are battling in right now, whether it's anxiety, whether it's addiction, whether it is mental health, whether it is financial, maybe it's a relationship, I don't know what the storm you're going through is right now, but what I do know is those storms are real, but I know that my God is bigger than any storm.